Awen,
Awen, man.
Awen.
what does it mean to build the man?
Oh, we've gone straight in. To take a man from the trenches to the clouds in his own existence, whatever that means to him, body, mind, spirit, legacy, rewrite his story, and give him the fire back in his belly to do something different with his life, with his energy, with his being, his existence, man. It's a generic term that encapsulates everything that may be missing or not in a man's world that he deeply desires.
What if you don't build the man?
Well, there's a different answer to that for a different man. The idea, dude, is that my belief is that a lot of men are not fulfilling their potential in any area or any facet of the world, of their world. And so to build the man is just subjective to who they are, you know, where they want to go in life, what they want to do. I have a vision for myself, and this is kind of what I put on the fellas that I work with, is that, you know, existentially one day we're gonna pass. The doors will close, the eyes will close, and that will be it. And it'd be really sad to do that in a way where you don't reflect with wonderful memories and accomplishments and seeing yourself in a light where you were a man who wanted your word to the things that you deeply desired and that mattered to you most. Because I can't imagine what that feeling's like of passing away and not living that truth, and not being able to reflect in a way that says I was everything that I wanted to be in this life. That hurts, man.
Was this born from the self-author exercise?
No, this was born from my default setting of me being the guy who would pass away with sadness and regret versus fulfillment and love and joy. You know, there is a default setting in me that is real self-sabotage and that really doesn't live out his potential. And then it was actually, it was the Memento Mori, you know, the Stoic calendar, that got me thinking about it. And really got me aware to my existence and how short it is in this life. The Memento Mori calendar. It's a Stoic calendar that basically, it's an 80-year calendar, but it visually puts life into perspective of, okay, average lifespan's what, like 78 years right now? This calendar's 80 years, and every year you colour it in. You colour in a year, you colour in your weeks, and you just see how fast time's moving. And it was that opened my eyes to doing my best to reverse engineer how I was going to spend that time. Because I think most of us feel and are in a belief that we've got so much time. And in one sense we do. There is a lot of time. We have got a lot of time. But in another sense it's not forever. And we're not bulletproof. And that calendar kind of kicked off that engineering process. And then from there I was like, well, you've really only got two choices. You either live out your potential and you chase the things that you deeply desire, or you stay stuck in the noise and the distractions and the comforts and all of the things that rip you to shreds and pull you from everything that you actually truly love and that you truly desire. So that was the starting point. And then the self-authoring idea is just Jordan Peterson's idea of being able to self-author your life, right? I'm not sure how he coined it, but this idea that you can rewrite your life, your story, your legacy, man. And if you're not doing that, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing with your time if you're not building out your legacy, not just for yourself, but for the people around you, your family, the people you love, your children, your brothers, your friends? Like, for me, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what else you're doing with your time if you're not serving that mission for yourself and others.
What's the process of identifying what that mission is to you?
Yeah, that's where it gets a little sticky. That's where the tools that you guys put together really work. That's the internal work. You mean like the figuring out who I am? Yeah, that's
what do I want?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, if you spend enough time in your own mind, if you spend enough time with meditation, if you spend enough time internally, you'll soon gather the awareness of what ticks your boxes and what doesn't. Sometimes externally it is given to you. Like my honesty is that my daughter, my first daughter, tipped the scales for that for me, because she turned me from one man to another man and showed me that the one thing I deeply wanted more than anything else was to be a dad, and it was the one thing that I'd been denying myself for a long time. Like, I don't want to. But that was just part of the mask, man. It was all just fear, scarcity, not being able to see the truth behind it. So sometimes it's handed to you in front, and you've got to be wise enough to see that, and sometimes you sit with it, and you've got to do some internal work. And I think having a brotherhood and people around you help you to see that. You know, if you're inspired by something that someone else does, you know, that's a gift from them to you. Like, we did that, we inspired you with that, and now you can take that. And if you're inspired by it, it's important to you, and it's something that you want to do for yourself. But that's a journey, man, and that takes work. And there's faster ways to do it and slower ways to do it. But I think the quickest way to do it is to get the fuck out the noise and the distractions and the comforts, and put yourself into a space and a place where it's just you, quiet, silence, nothing going on. All right, who am I? At my bare essentials, who am I? But again, there's no real one way to do that. We've just got tools, and we gotta walk that path. You know.
When you went through that process and got to look at yourself, did you like what you saw?
No, it was hell, man. It was hellish. I at 27 years old. Now this is a gift now, but at the time it wasn't, man. I got hit with anxiety so hard and so fast. I had no idea where it had come from or why it had appeared. I was literally working with a client on the gym floor, and I went blind in my left eye. So I just got this sharp pang in my brain, and it was intense, man. I went blind in my left eye, and I was like panicked, and the mask was so strong in me at that point that I refused to let the client see that I was suffering. But I couldn't see out my left eye, and I was like, shit, I'm blind in my left eye. I finished that session, and then the next session, and then rather than take myself to the hospital or the doctor, I still couldn't see anything, and I was just riddled with doom. I went home, did nothing with it, fell asleep, woke up the next day, and it was still there, and it never left, and it got progressively worse, and the symptoms got progressively worse, and then that led to depression, and then that led to 24/7 rumination, guilt over who I was, guilt over who I'd been, shame attached to my identity, suicidal ideation, the full works, man. It was hell. But that was the biggest gift that I've ever been given. You know, the biggest gift I've ever been given. And then on the back end of that, I was forced to look at my life, forced to look at the people that I was surrounded by, forced to look at how I operated day to day, and figure it out. And that was 5 years ago, man. I'm still on that journey. I'll never stop. I think that's the thing. For a long time I believed, well, I'll heal my anxiety, I'll fix that, and I'll fix the depression, and I'll fix the self-sabotage, and I'll fix this, and, you know, it's going to take me 6 to 12 months, and then I'm going to be good. You know, life's going to be gold, and after that 6 to 12 months, I'll be good for life. You know, I was wrong, man. But things get better because of it. Things get loads better. And that awareness and connection to yourself just keeps growing and evolving. And, you know, still, I wouldn't even call them good days and bad days. They're just really blessed days. And some days you got to see some opportunity and some hardships and some discomfort. And that default setting still exists within me. And I'm very well aware of that. So build the man is a coined term that for me, like, is a lifelong process and will never stop, and that's okay. That's a beautiful thing for me, you know. Done at the right level, it's a beautiful thing that I'll never stop working towards.
Why the shift from busy man to build the man?
Well, the busy man was a business shift from a PT on the gym floor to go into online coaching so that I could spend more time with my children. I didn't want to be attached to anywhere but home with my family. And so that was an easy entry step to move what I already knew and the skill set I already had, which was to get people in shape and train people and look after their health. But because of this process and because of my own process and because of all the anecdotes of fellas that I've connected with and met, I soon realised that my heart was more in like legacy building and redefining your identity, and a part of that's rebuilding your body. You know, it's a huge part of that is taking care of your habits and your standards of who you are as a man day to day. But then I like to go deeper, man. You know, like macros won't save anyone, calories won't save anyone, training plans alone won't save anyone. They're all just tools, like your breath work, like your core, like all these wonderful things. But below that, there's the identity of a man that needs to be shifted. There's a real why behind everything that he's doing, and when he can find that and see that, then he actually picks up the tools. Because getting the man to pick up the tools is the thing. You know, having the tools means nothing if the man won't pick them up. So we got to get him to pick up his tool and actually, you know, sharpen his axe, right?
What's the most common, how do I word it, issue men are dealing with when they first come to you? What's popping up? What's reoccurring?
In their minds or in my minds, because they're two different stories. In their minds, they believe they've got no time. That's the biggest issue. Oh, I'm just busy, man. I'm just busy. The truth of it is lack of belief, lack of self-respect, value, lack of self-care, lack of ability to back themselves. The biggest issue they're facing is they don't value themselves enough to do the work, or to put themselves on the forefront, or to make an investment into themselves. Like, I'm not going to put money into myself because I've got a family to provide for, without seeing that the ripple effect of the money comes from who they are as a man. You know, my fellas, my guys are in business, they're professional, they're all those things, right? So they've got every reason in the book to do two things: provide for the children and go to work. Provide for the children, it's easy. But when it comes to going, okay, what about servicing you? Oh, well, no, I'm too busy, man. Too busy. I got too much going on, you know? And it's not that. It's not that. It's a lack of self-respect in a multitude of ways. And it's a beautiful trait. Like, the men that I work with are beautiful, beautiful men. Like, good men, great-hearted men, would put themselves in front of the family any time of day, you know, like, would make sure that the family are taken care of and protected, and financially they want to give them the world. Like, that's a beautiful thing. That's not to be fucked with. That's a really lovely thing. But they're missing the point. You know, without their full potential, there's a ceiling and the caps, and also, you know, there's a part of that reflection in later life that be like, I could be now 50, suffering with all sorts of ailments and diseases and mental health issues. And because I've seen this, I've got all these anecdotes, which has been another part of leading me to where I'm at. And suddenly the longevity and the quality of life's not there, and that does affect the children and then the grandchildren and the missus and all of these variables that are now affected because they put themselves at the bottom of the pile. And again, that's part of my self-defeating behaviour. It's too easy to do, man.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think, you refer to as the default mode? You're obviously seeing similarities with the fellas that you work with. Where's this default mode coming from?
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer, man. I mean, you could go right back and say that it's childhood programming of how you were talked to from parents to child. You know, like, parents a lot of the time don't mean to do it, but indirectly you don't feel good enough as a child, and because you don't feel good enough, you happily sabotage your later life and your adult life. Another part of it, I believe, and I don't want to pull too many strings at this bow, right, but I don't think you're taught to love yourself at that level, to really care for you as an individual first and foremost. You know, service to others, yeah, but to really believe that I come first, not in a narcissistic, selfish way, but in a way that's like, I know if I'm at my best, the world gets the ripple effect that is beautiful. I don't think anywhere teaches you that stuff. My kids certainly don't get that from their schools right now. There's this little bit of, touching into this stuff, but it's just to tick a box. It really is to tick a box. It's not for pure love of the child and how they operate. It's to tick a box to say that we do these things, right? The system works that way. So I think the default setting is just years and years of taking that on board and fitting into the mold of the world rather than finding out who you truly are. And so once you've got years of that conditioning under your belt, it's a hard thing to break through. Whether that's bang on true, I'm not sure, man. But that's just my idea behind it.
As a father of 4, how conscious are you of what the environment and the conditioning? Because whatever's happening, it is conditioning because it's just that age.
Yeah.
All young kids.
Yeah.
How conscious are you of what's going on in and around your kids? 'Cause I can't imagine what it's like having young kids in 2025.
Yeah, it's for me, it's probably overspilling, man. Like I'm maybe too conscious of it. I'm not sure if that's a thing, right? But I would. It's really difficult, man. We've been through a lot of experiences in the last 3, 6, 9, 12 months that maybe start to think of looking at homeschooling and doing things a little bit different. And even that itself's not an easy process. You got to go through the ringer to be able to do that. That's how difficult this thing is and how tied to your system you are. Like, you should be able to wake up in the morning and go, I want to school my kids from home, and nobody should be able to say a thing, in my opinion. But that's not the case, man. You have to go through a ton. And that just again reinforces this idea that you're made to fit the system rather than the system making to fit you. So as a father, all I know is I get so many hours per day, and I built my life to get as many hours as possible with these children per day, where I can be a little bit of a balancing act for them, to be able to show them differently and lead them differently and take care of them with that consciousness. Rather than have them dictated to and told who they are and told what they should do and how they should do these things. We balance that out right now, but it's not we're constantly.
Where are the red flags coming from in that you feel like you need a bit more control over what narrative? Is that school or is that media or?
Well, dude, my kids are real young. So, I mean, Lucas is 10. So he had access to socials for a while, but they've been gone. They've been taken away. That outlet is terrifying. School, it's not the teachers, man. It's not there's some beautiful people that teach and to do those jobs. As soon as you put in number grades and letter grades to a child's name with one model, you soon become aware that that's a problem. Because we are all completely individual. So our philosophy at home is like effort trumps outcome. If the effort's there, and you enjoy it and it's what you're into, the outcome's irrelevant. The outcome will always be irrelevant. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You put the effort in, you did the best with what you could do, had fun along the way, the outcome will be what the outcome will be. And just to let it be. But again, it's not just the teachers they face with that dynamic, because all of the peers, they follow suit, right? So they're kind of looking around at the friends and the peers and thinking, well, they don't operate that way. The outcome is important. It's not.
And how do you navigate the media side of things? Obviously, you've taken the access away for now, but eventually there will be a day. Have you got something in mind for that, or?
This is my saving grace. I truly believe it's not taught, it's caught. So I believe me and my lady Sophie have a responsibility to showcase a way of living that isn't engulfed in social media. That isn't us doom scrolling. And this is an observation you see school playgrounds, school drop-offs. Parents are deep in phones, man. Scroll. You see that little thumb or that little finger just doing that same swipe up all the time. Kids are kind of stood by the leg. Like, there's no presence. It's gone. and they're just doing that. And going back to build the man, this is the point. All of these little actionable things need to be talked about. Fellas need to be made aware of this before it's too late. You know, I'm sure there's a woman out there that's doing a great alternative for the women of the world and the moms of the world. But for me, it's like getting these fellas so aware of their years, because a lot of my dudes have got young kids, and be like, do you action that? Is that a habit that you carried? Are you doing those things? When was the last time you told your kids you love the kids? And all of these things, because when I walk, I do the school run and I see those things, no one's present, man. And it's gone. So I believe that it's not taught, it's caught. And that's the best chance you've got, is to be able to lead a lifestyle that they can witness for themselves. You know, your children should trust you 100%. And so when they're questioning whether social media is a good or a bad thing, coming to mum or dad and watching how they operate will provide them with all the wisdom that they need.
Yeah. Because I was free access to the internet from young and unsupervised. It's not like it was taught necessarily, because it was the social media that was out there at the time wasn't built in the addictive way that it is now, that's got everybody hooked. But there was still so much dopamine out there that it was addicting for me. And it's made me aware that when I have kids, it is something that I have to be on the ball with. It's just, how do you navigate that in a good way? Because I'm sure that all the other kids aren't having that same treatment. So you don't want anybody to feel like an outcast or something for not being up to date with the potential brain rot that's out there. But it's what the in thing is for people to be following that. It's a tricky one.
The only thing I truly, truly, truly believe in and truly know on this topic is that parents have a duty to lead by example. And those words are not a case of, you know, shout at your kids when they've done wrong, and that's no. You live and breathe that. You live and breathe that. If I catch myself ending up using socials around the kids, like, I'm in immediate awareness of, like, put that away right now. It's gone. There's no negotiation. Like, it's gone. Because in those small little windows of time, those little eyes, those beady little eyes are looking at you. You know, what's he up to? Why is he not answering my question? Why is he not hearing my words? Because how often's that, right? Like, people are talking to people and they can't hear because they're in the phone. It's gone. So, listen, I won't even pretend to be an expert on it, but I heavily believe the best chance you have got is to lead the lifestyle that you would want for your children, and to do the damn best with that you can. Like, genuinely do your best, and even that doesn't bulletproof you from this, because it's tough, and you're facing a lot of resistance. But it's the best chance that you can get to be able to do that, is to operate in a way that you would want them to operate, and to live a lifestyle. The thing is, with kids as well, they don't need that dopamine if they've got a ton of love at home, a ton of presence. You know, conversation, not presence as in presence, as presence as in the moment, right? Like, they're just wonderful if you play with them and do that, you know? The same applies for Lucas with 10. He'll play football. He won't even think about his phone if he's got someone to play with, someone to muck around with, and to have those things. You know, kids still want to play. Kids still want to play out. You just got to facilitate that and remind them that it's far more enjoyable than swiping up on a phone and doing those things. But the problem with the other way of doing things is that it's too easy. It's so easy to just put your kids upstairs and go on your iPad, go do that. There's a time and a place for that if they want to watch a movie and chill out. But choosing an easy life to make your parenting life easier, it's not a good move, because in the long term it's going to hurt someone.
Does that not apply to the adults as well that are sat outside the school scrolling? Are they not lacking play?
100%.
Would they not forget about the phone if they put it down and start?
Dude, that's a gem. That's exactly it. And again, coming back to, like, not even play, like with men in particular, there is nothing more satisfying for all the fellas that I've ever worked with is to, you know, work is ticking over and money's coming in and things are going all right, we're paying bills and doing that things, and it becomes like autonomy. Like that's how it is now. But if you give a man a permission slip to go chase something, challenge yourself, do something, be bigger than who you are right now, suddenly he's excited, the fire is back in his belly, and he don't want the noise and the distractions. One of the most common conversations that I'm having is with fellas going to bed and going to sleep versus scrolling on their phone for 2 hours, realising it's past the bedtime and then going to sleep, and then waking up with all the shit that was in the mind the night before. They've slept with that and wake up groggy and tired. You put something in front of a man that excites him, you know, and building himself really excites him when you tap into that. He doesn't want those. He don't rely on those things anymore. You know, he's looking for like, how can I make today a better day? How can I be in the moment right now? How can I challenge myself? I wonder what it'll be like in 6 months when I've hit this milestone and this target. And in the background, he's still a family man. He's still a dad. But this time he's playing with his kids because he's like, I'm now aware of all of this noise and distractions and fluff. And dude, that's play for a lot of men. You know, is to be able to work towards something, see themselves progress and feel fulfilled. You know, because that disappears real quick. Even between making £1,000 a month to £5,000 a month to £100,000 a month to whatever these guys are doing in the businesses, eventually it's just the same. It's the same thing that's just tumbleweeding over and again. And when they made the first 10 grand, they probably was really excited about it, and then they've continued to make that, and that kind of nulls down. And dude, self-development and progress in any area of your life, as a father, as a businessman, in your health, in your body, in your mind, hitting those milestones is a wonderful thing that keeps fellas engaged. And again, comes back to like, how do you want to engineer the life that you live in? How do you want to... everything for me leads up to a fictional moment. And it's for fictional moment because nobody's guaranteed how they're going to pass. But everything for me leads up to a fictional moment where I'm an old man and I fall away in peace with a beautiful family around me that I feel like I've led beautifully, and a ton of memories of accomplishments and things that I overcame. And it's a fictional story, right? But eventually one day I'm going to pass, and I will work towards that regardless, because it's exciting and it gives me purpose and meaning every day. And it stops me from doom scrolling somebody else's socials and what they're up to. And that's just wild, man. Those algorithms are wild anyway. It doesn't matter what you do. You've got like half naked chicks and stuff going on. Like, it's just meant to just pull you in.
Yeah. It's also meant to put people into groups as well. I can't remember what I was listening to recently. But now, instead of the algorithms working out what it is you like and feeding you that, they just slowly tweak people's interests into certain groups.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to keep people hooked on that.
Yeah.
It's so
It's
dangerous.
political as well, man. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Be interesting to see how political it is for children. Because if you could figure that out, that might be terrifying.
Yeah, to control the next
To put
generation.
them in their box already.
Well, maybe we're already seeing the repercussions of that now.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, political's a good one because it plays on division, and it plays on emotion, and it plays on making people think that they're the hero, whichever side they're on, thinking that this is definitely the way, and the other side are evil. And if I'm against that, I'm a good person.
Yeah.
And it's almost it's having that focus on being against something makes you better because they're so terrible over there. I'm okay. I don't need to focus on. I don't need to do the work and look in the mirror because I'm okay.
Well, it's like them. They've got their identity is no longer themselves. It's part of the group. That becomes their identity. That's their belonging. Yeah, and it takes away the individual. That's pretty dangerous.
That's why it's so powerful, man. But this is why what you guys are doing with the Men Who Awen stuff is super powerful, because one of the main things that I believe that you guys do really well is create that space and awareness. Like, awareness is powerful, man, because I can look at things that I deeply believe in and then question myself on it. Just be like, how much of this is me being pulled in by something and how much of this is truth? And then to be able to look at the other side without dogma or without that rigidity, right? And to call it something else other than evil, you can see it at play. Each individual that's running this process and has this opinion and belief is just built off a ton of experiences that are different to mine, and have the awareness to look and go, well, it could be true or it could not be true, allows you to still be super kind to your fellow man. And if you can be super kind to your fellow man, whether you agree on stuff or not, like that's a superpower. That's a real hack to community, and a really powerful hack to life in itself. Because that's an act of forgiveness, being able to look at the other man who's got a completely different set of beliefs and be able to forgive yourself and him for the dogmatic ideas and beliefs, and to be able to shake hands and then drink a beer over it, and to sit there and go, yeah, like if people had the power to do that, can you even imagine the reality we'd be facing? You imagine if politicians were pushing out agendas so hard, but the common man just had this absolute awareness to what was going on. We'd be impenetrable.
I think we're seeing that. We're certainly starting to see that grow now. There's a conscious awakening with people. We're seeing it firsthand in this country. Every conversation I have when it comes to politics, everyone's rejecting the mainstream now. The Conservatives, they kind of went tits up last time, and Labour have come in and they're not doing a much better job. And I think people are coming awake to like, right, okay, there has to be an alternative to this now.
There's a lack of trust for sure.
There is.
Which is a great thing.
I don't know what it looks like. I think there's probably going to be a lot of chaos before there's calm.
No doubt. But again, that's why you build them, man.
Well, that's it. Yeah. It's focusing on what you can control, and I guess that's yourself, and that's what you're helping fellas do, aren't they? Focusing on what they can influence and not getting stuck with the rest.
Yeah, I believe. I believe in it. It starts and ends with the man, and I mean that by man and woman. It starts and ends with the individual. Like, it starts with you and it ends with you. The impact in the world starts and ends with you. And if every single person was in that belief, dude, again, it's almost bulletproof, because it starts and ends with you. And there's a lot of personal responsibility and kindness and compassion and awareness, and there's a collective. But that again, what we're trying to do in family homes. Stressed out dad, feels miserable about himself, comes home irritable with the kids, no libido for his missus. When he sees his pals, they talk about nothing. It's superficial, because they struggle to get to that place and that depth anymore. They feel miserable about how they look, how they move. They know their health's redlining, and stress is sky high. The ripple effect of that is makes noise, distractions, and agendas get slip through the cracks and get real deep into a man's world. Where the alternative dude, is like Superman, man. He comes home, he's got energy for his kids, he can lead his kids, play with his kids, date his wife or his lady. That's important too. Is like they feel like they've still got a wonderful relationship for however many decades they have left to come. He looks at himself in the mirror, feels proud of who he is, and continues to build and challenge himself, whatever that means next, whatever the next hurdle is. And for every man, that looks different, because some fellas have some things really well compartmentalized, and some fellas are a scattered mess who are wearing the biggest mask in the world, and each individual is different, but there's always some great work to be done. And when you're in that work, it's not work, it's play. Like, it's challenging, but it's a mega thing. It's a beautiful thing. And I think it restores a lot of wonderful stuff back in the household. You do that for as many households as possible, and it's a wicked result.
What is that mask? Is that ego?
Yeah, mostly. It's just protection, man. It's like, I'm not who I operate from my mind and rather than my heart. I'm not truly connected and aligned with what I'm doing and how I'm operating and how I speak to people, and I'm unable to show that real true self, and I got to put up the front. But again, like, fellas in corporate systems have a condition to do that. Like, put a mask on 8 hours a day every single day, whether it's with clients, customers, colleagues, bosses. If you're in business, you're always, trying to sell something or negotiate a deal, or, do all those things that do when you're locked in that for a third of your day at minimum every day for decades on end. you get home, you look at yourself in the mirror, it's the most deflating thing in the world. And so you just give that permission slip to burn that right down. Because on the contrary thing, on the other side as well, the authentic you is the guy that does tons more success because he's free as a bird, and he ends up working with, these are things I wasn't aware of until I was working with fellas, particularly in business, that were making better deals and doing more with the money and the clients that they were working with, because that shift in themselves started attracting like-minded men, like-minded fellas, like-minded business people that wanted to work with them because they weren't operating like dinosaurs anymore. Like, they had a freedom to them, a confidence, a conviction to them. They become the authority because their identity is just locked in, man. That's contagious. We all know it's sitting here. I'm constantly inspired by dudes for a ton of different reasons, and those dudes sit around me right now. You fellas sit around me. I've got other friends that do the same thing. Like, I'm like a sponge, man. I'm sucking that inspiration all the time. If the fellas around me are doing wonderful things with wonderful traits, making an impact and building success in their area, like, I'm a sponge. I'm soaking that up. How's he doing that? It's infectious, and I want to be close to that person. I want to stay close to that person because I can see and feel that energy that he's operating from, and it's a wonderful thing. So it's the same with the fellas that we work with. The ripple effect is huge. You burn that mask right down, man, and it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's nice that you mentioned inspiration, with Awen translating to inspire or to be inspired. Where's the inspiration for your brand? Is the most masculine thing I've ever seen in my life. Where does the inspiration for that come from?
I always felt like a little boy in a man's body. You know what I mean? I always felt like in 2015, 2016, 2017, I was super jacked, super diced up. Like, I had a dream physique to many people. Unreal physique, super lean. But I was still a little boy in a man's body. And I found myself that the mask was so large that alone wasn't helping me heal anything. And so my inspiration, I found, was when I was looking at fellas that were so calm and composed, and this could have been anything from actors to authors to friends to, just men, just dudes. I'd see one thing, see something, and be like, that's hit me. I don't know. I believe, I believe that I'm highly sensitive to that. Like, I'm always just, I really do soak inspiration from a lot of people. But it's because for a long time, I didn't feel that way. I really didn't feel that way. And I was a little boy in a man's body. And that hurts a lot. That hurts. And so the inspiration for me was looking at fellas that didn't just have, that the body put together, because that was the first part of call. It's like, well, if fellas are jacked and muscular, then they're the man. You know what I mean? They are the man. And then shifted and pivoted to soon realise that it's that calm composure, that wisdom in a man, that slowed, mellow, compartmentalised, just wonderful. It's like the wise old granddad, you know what I mean, that just sits there and can offer insight and wisdom. And I started to be inspired by men who had that level of understanding, empathy, awareness in themselves. And those dudes inspire me incredibly. And then something wonderful happened I started to inspire myself. Like, I started to become my own inspiration. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And that just gathered so much momentum.
Was it like an idea of self? It was like, if I do X, Y, and Z, create this version of myself, that inspires me. And that's what you carry to become on the process that you're on now.
You mean that the thing that keeps it sustainable? Or
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about sustainability because
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier if you give a man that purpose, if it is himself to build himself,
Yeah.
then it is dead exciting. You don't need the phone and what have you.
Yeah.
Which is true, but for some, including myself, that boost initially of motivation, because it's motivation, it's not discipline, that starts to fall away.
Yeah.
And then the consistency comes into question.
Yeah.
What pointers do you have for people that struggle with? Because I feel like maybe it's you need to be so clear on the goal that seeing that snaps you back in.
There's an exercise, you fellas might know about it, called like the 7 levels of why, where you identify something that's important to you and then you ask why, and then you write the answer, and then you say why, and you write the answer. And all it's doing is every time you say why, it takes you a layer deeper, and a layer deeper, and a layer deeper. Mine's twofold. So my 7 levels of why got me all the way to the old man who wants to leave this life with that moment. Like, for some reason, that just fires me up more than anything else. Knowing that I've done everything I can as a man for my family, for my all facets of my world and myself, to give myself that something. There'd been nothing more powerful to give back to me than an ability to reflect beautifully when I pass from this life. But also, 2, the second thing is learning to love the process. Like, falling in love with the process. Legitimately falling in love with the process. Because you can force yourself to embark on a ton of pursuits, whether it be a diet or, shifting your behaviours or habits or therapy or training or building more success financially or bettering your relationships. And you can pursue all those things, but if you haven't got full clarity on why that's truly important to you and you don't learn to love the process, discipline alone is a really tough thing. It will only carry you so far. And there genuinely is a way to love that process. And a big part of it is hitting milestones along the way and to be able to see yourself and see that progression. Like, I'm in no doubt that men love progression. In whatever, it could be tiny little 0.01% of a win. Something so small that becomes just so fulfilling. Or it can be something monumentally large, like the big, I've been doing this for 5 years win, I've been doing this for 10 years win. Like there's varying degrees of those milestones, right? And they're part of loving the process. But the other part is like, and again, it comes back in so many ways, it comes back to self-respect and self-love, is loving the man that is doing this stuff versus the man that you have been. Really wanted to break free from an identity that, because the truth about it is that the identity that you currently have, if you're in a place of real low state self-worth, depression, whatever it may be, your identity beneath all of that is still that true version of you. So for me, it's always been that man that's going to pass away with a beautiful reflection. It was just covered up by depression and anxiety and some poor habits and behaviors. Underneath that's still who I was. I just couldn't see it, right? So I had to start, building some momentum on doing some things. Every fella's identity at his core is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing with some beautiful ambitions and some beautiful goals, and it just gets layered on top with all of this noise and stuff like that. Find that. Find the core of why. Because again, just to give you a little bit of an example, fellas come to me because they're like, I want to lose some weight. All right. Why? Well, I just want to get rid of my tummy a little bit. All right. Why? Well, I've been carrying it and I don't really like, when I put my shirts on, my t-shirts are a bit tight and, I'd like to get rid of that. Yeah, why? You do that enough times and suddenly either my one or two things happen, he breaks down because the truth of the whole situation comes out and he's like, because I don't feel like the man that I deserve to be or I want to be. I don't feel like my wife looks at me the way she used to look at me. I don't feel like my kids respect me or I'm a leading by example. Suddenly, what started off with, I want to lose weight, has become, oh, that's who I am. I'm a man who wants to lead with purpose and meaning. And by example, or I want my wife to look at me like I'm the king to her world. You know what I mean? Like I'm the man. She can come to me. I'm the warrior that she wants to be with. I'm the one who will protect her when this fictional war in my mind comes to life. That's important. That energy is important. And so I want to lose weight becomes I'm really, really not content with the man that I currently am because of whatever deep and meaningful factors are involved. When you find that, and you truly find that, you write that down on a piece of paper and you stick it in front of you somewhere every day. I do that. I have these images. I have a vision board in front of me all the time when I'm working. It reminds me of the true version of myself because I'm just like anybody else. Like I can fall prey to all of the noise, the garbage. I can get angry at social media posts and politics that I see online, and before you know it, I could be in there for 20 minutes. You know, it's only by setting up these things and getting clear on who it is that I am at the core level without all of the inputs from the world, you know, not from nature. Nature's a beautiful thing, but from the man-made world, all those inputs that are coming in that are pulling you left, right, and center and trying to distract you from who you truly are. You get so clear on that. You get so clear on why it's truly important to you. Suddenly, losing weight's not a real issue anymore. You know, men don't believe they're disciplined. Yeah, I see men go to work for decades on end to a job they don't want to do for 8 hours per day, if they're lucky, 10 hours, 12 hours. They do it for decades, Monday to Friday, and then have the nerve to tell me that they're not disciplined. Well, how have you been doing that for 30 years? You don't even like that. You've been sticking to that for decades. You don't like that. So tell me why you've been going there. Because I want to make sure my family's taken care of. You can't tell me you're not disciplined, dude. We just got to find that for you. We got to find that for you. Not for family, not for business, not for any other reason, but we find that for you. And then you get really clear on that, and then we find a way of building out that process that goes, I love this, man. You know what I mean? I love this. I want to stay a part of this. And another part of that is not doing it alone, because you can go pretty fast alone, but you go much further with a team of people around you, a network around you. You fellas know that really, really well. You know, having like-minded fellas around you is a superpower. If you don't surround yourself with that environment and your boys and your brothers want you drinking all weekend, you're going to quickly fall. And that's a tough place to be, because you don't surround yourself with the right people. Like that pack mentality is real, man. And so it's not a solo journey. You do it with people around you.
What do you do when you have that awakening moment and you look around you and you go, fuck, I'm in the wrong circle, but these are my boys. We've been friends since high school, primary school.
Yeah.
They're gonna think I'm a dick if I decide I want different habits.
Yeah.
How do you tackle that?
Yeah, well, that's a big part of burning the mask, right? Is like, I want to be myself, but it's now I either keep the mask on and I sacrifice who I am as a man and what I truly want out of this life, or I rip it off and I accept and let go of the things that need to be let go of. Now, the thing with that is beautiful things happen for a lot of fellas. And again, I'm giving you experience of the clients that I work with because it's the best anecdotes I can give. Some of your boys and some of your men will follow. Not straight away, and you can service and duty. You can talk to yourself in that way. Like, if I do this first, and if I lead with this first, and I care about the brothers that I surround myself with, I hope that they follow. I hope that they come with. Because you can look at some of them who maybe 10, 15 stone overweight, who you hear about the marriages and the relationship with the kids. You'd want your brothers to come with you if they're true friends, right? So you do the same thing. You lead by example. And to do that for yourself, you go find a different network and an environment, whether it's digital or, whether we have a digital community. We have a brotherhood of fellas on board that have never met each other, that talk to each other like they've known each other for 10 years, right? So in the background, they can still go see the old mates and then connect with new people. So you lead with that and hope that some of your brothers come, and, well, for the ones that aren't willing and the ones that don't get it and don't understand the journey you're on, That's part of your evolution, man. Part of being a man is you're going to outgrow some people. You're going to outgrow some people, and if they're not on that same wavelength, that's okay. You don't judge them. Just let them do their thing. And even if they're trying to negotiate you otherwise, I mean, you've got a duty to yourself and the things that really matter to stand your ground and say, fuck that, no.
Yeah, I think some people feel like a higher value network of people around them isn't attainable or isn't in their reach.
Yeah.
And it can be very eye-opening. My dad, when he came to the last event, that was potentially the first time in his life, if not for a very, very long time, where he was around people that actually wanted to listen to him, actually wanted to get to know him and what's going on beneath small talk on a golf course or small talk on site. And it was instantaneously saw the shift in him. So much lighter afterwards for just feeling heard, but seeing that it's real and that it exists, and that there's better out there for you.
Yeah. But having experienced that, like, it'd be interesting to hear now, like for your father, he's experienced that because of the space that we held for him, and consciously we were wanting to listen to him. How has he then moved forward with communicating with friends and peers around in his circle now? Because I'm a firm believer of when he's experienced that, all he's done is he's experienced being on the other hand of a man who's looked at him in the eye and used these, actively listened. He can then do that to the next man that he speaks to, and then that's that ripple effect which then just keeps on going and going and going, and he can then build that circle around him. So has he found that since, or?
I'd like to think so. I don't spend as much time with him anymore now that we're not working together. We need to probably work on that a little bit to spend more time together. I think now, recently we've been completely opposite hours. I've been at home and he's been out, and he's been at home and I've been out. So it'd be good to kind of rekindle that a little bit. I noticed in the house though, a different person, completely more present. Like, not that his heart's changed, but it was just more open. It was just more on show, and temper was longer and more pleasant to be around. Definitely. But it's tough. It's tough. My mum's just gone sober. I think she's nearly half a year in now, and she's had grief off of people around her. Like, even if it's just little things, little side comments. But it's tough. Like, it's been such a positive thing for her to do, and reap so much benefit from doing it. Yet, really close people in and around, you get that backlash. It's like similar to what I was saying about breaking out of a group. It's tough when because I think all it does is just hold up a mirror almost. When you start to make that change or whatever it is, it shows that it's possible. And I think when you're in it, it's hard to see that, because you go, oh, fuck, I could do that. But it's just tough to deal with. It's been a bit of a struggle for her. So I don't know. I feel like if it'd be similar for my dad, if he was to go back onto site and be like, "Oh, I've just been at this event and it was great. We did X, Y, and Z." The responsibility, you what? You doing what? Take the mic, shut it down, call it whatever. It's tough. I think it's tough. They talk about the Chris Williamson talks about the lonely phase, which is when you accept, like, I need to make a change. So you start to outgrow where you are, but you're still behind where you want to be. So that that you're working towards isn't quite reachable yet, and you're kind of left in this limbo state where probably most people go, fuck, this is worse than before, I'm gonna just
back to default,
sit back into what I know and what's comfortable. Yeah, but I don't know. I think I'm really proud of my mum for what she's done. That inspires me. I'd love to go into more detail with her about it, about the reason why and what have you, because I never realised it was an issue as much as she did. I don't want to talk about her personal side of things too much because I don't have permission. But it's nice to be surrounded by people that inspire
you. Yeah, 100%, man. I would say 2 things to what you mentioned there, like with your dad's situation of going back onto site, of being able to talk about that event. I would apply the same thing that I apply to children, and that it's caught not taught. Eventually fellas will see a difference in your father when he continues to do that work, and the fellas that, politely, the fellas that aren't ready, you can fuck those guys off for a while. It's cool. Don't worry about them. You don't need to tell them about Men of Awen and those kind of things. The ones that are now starting to feel that shift and want that change and start to feel ready will ask, because they'll see the shift in your dad and how he operates, and when the conversation will come up, universal law will bring it up to the right fellas at the right time, and then the ones that might be like completely standoffish about it, in 2 years' time, they might be having a completely different thing. So rather than trying to teach that and push that element out, it's caught not taught. Like, your dad's duty to himself and to others will be to continue to put himself in a much more happy place and life, rather than trying to push it on others maybe who are not ready. And I don't mean he's pushing it on others, but even those conversations, some people just aren't ready for, so just lead it. Just like a lot of things, like with the stuff you fellas, I can guarantee there's so many dudes that will watch this in private, in quiet. Because they're purposefully putting themselves separate to the norm and the common crowd. Men of Awen's not a common practice right now. In 5 years, in 10 years, we could be having a completely different conversation. But right now, it's like, okay, well, you're breaking through the mold on what you're doing. Fellas have got to be ready for that. And that's caught, not taught. When you start to see fellas, your brothers that have been miserable for 5 years, and suddenly, whoa, this dude's got like a different energy to him. He's vibrant. He's full of vitality. He's, like, he used to complain about his missus, and now all they're doing is, having sex multiple times a week, and he laughs about his kids. And where's the miserable dude gone? What you been doing? What you been up to? Yeah, just Men of Awen, bro. Just Men of Awen, right? But I think, it's the same thing. It's caught, not taught. And then the thing you said about Chris William, the lonely phase, I believe that rock bottom isn't when you hit the bottom. I believe it's when you start to work out of it. Because that was the other thing. For me, it got harder when I made the choice that I'm going to have to do something about this. Because not only am I at rock bottom, I now have to let go of the very things that were falsely promising me that they'd look after me. The habits that would take care of me. I'm saying goodbye to them. So not only am I robbing down, suddenly I'm getting lower. The people that I'm going to have to walk away from. Because not only am I, massively depressed and anxious, I'm now having to have hard conversations with people that suddenly don't fit the mold anymore. And then they're kicking off at you. And they're saying things about you. And they're talking about you behind your back because, oh yeah, Naif's head's gone west, or he's this, or he's that, or he's, he's mentally what. Like, that's rock bottom, man. That's the lonely phase. That's the bit, man. You get through that and you're through. It's not when you hit that. It's when you decide to do something about it, and then the work starts on top of and then all the beautiful stuff starts to happen. And that's why I believe you just can't do it alone. Some fellas can, but for the majority of us, we need people, man. We need people that have been there, walked that path, and are willing to just say, I got your back on this one, man.
I was thinking this month for the podcast, the episodes that go out over the period of this month, we'll have a topic of internal narrative that voice in your head, that constant, well, for some people, constant soundtrack.
Yeah.
What's your relationship like with that voice?
Yeah. So much better. There's still like my struggles are much more superficial than they used to be. We had this conversation right the other day. Like I took an evening off from work and from driving myself into burnout with business side of stuff. Louis calls me, right? He calls me and I'm laying in bed. This is how interesting this is. So he calls me, I'm laying in bed. It's like, what was it, like 6:30, 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock, yeah.
Lying in bed with my lady watching a film. Now he called me and I was like, oh shit, this dude's going to see me lying in bed. I'm a father of 4. He's going to be like, what? Your life's way too easy, man. Immediately caught it. That's how I talk to myself in default mode. Get up, look like you're busy, look like you're working, look like you're doing something. The voice is still present, which is why I'm like, okay, this is a forever ongoing journey, and that's okay. I've made radical acceptance with that. But the voice was there, and it was like, you know, you shouldn't be in bed at this time on a whatever night it was, right? But I damn well should have been there. Like, me and my lady are, that's not something that we can do every night. And we had an opportunity to, the kids had gone down real early and we laid in bed and watched a movie. But that was that voice. But that voice used to be, now it's like, work harder. That voice used to be a lot more sinister. It was life or death, man. That voice was a lot harsher and a lot stronger and a lot more powerful, and it used to plot heavily against me. Now it's just like, do a bit more work, feel a bit guilty for not maybe, being all consumed by all things. And this is actually the other thing that I should mention is that one of the things you got to be really careful of. Like, build demand is a wonderful concept, but even that, you got to restore balance with that. Meditation's a great tool. Too much meditation can be a distraction from life. Training's a great thing. Too much training can put you in a hole. Dieting's a great thing, but if you've got 0% body fat, dieting's probably not the right thing to do. And so, like, a big part of that is a big part of build demand is like, how much downtime are you taking? Like, real downtime. To do nothing. No purpose, no meaning. Just enjoy. Just sit still. One of my daily habits now is locked in there, is just relax for a bit of time, man. Don't do anything. I recently started smoking cigars again because I love the act of smoking, right? I do. Weed just makes me tired after, because I could smoke that all day, every day, right? But it doesn't help my productivity. But I've started smoking like half a cigar, probably once per week on a weekend and stuff, and I just sit, nothing, just smoke a cigar. It's not the most healthy habit in the world, but for me it really is, because it's just a beautiful little bit of downtime. There's no meaning, no purpose to it, and that's part of build demand. It's not all that push and shove. Like, you've got to really, really be able to know how to. And I'm still working on that. So I ain't going to preach that I'm the expert, but I'm in the trenches with it. And I'll get better with it in time.
That internal narrative, is it kind, or is it?
Yeah, I think now it's so much kinder. The stuff that used to really hurt before, the stuff that it used to say before, was really unkind, man. It was like a super abusive parent. Now, beneath all that was, you need to change, right? That voice was just a representation of things needed shift and change. But it was nasty, man. It was really nasty. And some days it was really, really, really nasty. And the day that my daughter was born, she was pivotal, because the day that my daughter Nora was born was the worst day of my life, because I heavily believed that her birth would fix everything. All the negative emotions, all the anxiety, all the depression. And it didn't. It just heightened it, man. So taking her home from Calderdale Hospital was just hell, man. Like, just legit hell. because I genuinely didn't think I was going to make it through. Like, that was incredibly tough, man. She was like supposed to save me, and she did eventually. But on that day, I was like, well, that's everyone when they have a baby, that's, it's the best day of your life. You see your kid come out and she's born. Fuck me, man. My story was so much different. I drove home and I thought, how do I get out of this life as fast as possible? I'd already let her down. Like, I'd already fucked up. That was how strong that voice was. Like, I was already not good enough for her. And that was heart-wrenching. So that's what that voice used to be. Now, there's none of that. And I can sit quiet in my own space, in my own room, and I can talk to myself in a lovely way. Like, dude, you're a wonderful father. You know? You take care of your lady the best. I can say wonderful things about myself. Wonderful things about myself. That wasn't possible in my world. To be able to do that really wasn't possible. Ever. No matter what I looked like, no matter how much validation I got, nothing could cure that. Nothing could fix that. And now it's, dude, I can be alone in the middle of the forest. That wouldn't have been a thing for me. To be alone in the middle of the woods and not have anything to distract me, that would have been a miserable experience, man. You just wouldn't choose to do that. I need a distraction. Now I'm the different man. You can put me in the woods for a week and I'm cool with me, But that's not to say the voice doesn't still prod from time to time. But sometimes I don't know if that's just to keep me in check a little bit, or whether if I let that fully go, it would spiral right back into that place. I don't believe I could ever go back there now. I can't see what would happen in my world to take me to that place. It just doesn't seem plausible. So sometimes I just think that little voice now is it's a balancing act. It's the whole like yin and yang, you know what I mean? But I've never lived inside anyone else's head. I don't know if anyone's bulletproof from having an internal narrative that can be a bit sticky sometimes. I'm not sure if that's a reality or not.
What if somebody has something that's incurable?
Just mean, like, is there a person that walks around without an internal narrative that can be a bit sticky from time to time, that creates a bit of self-doubt and maybe a little bit of self-loathing, or, I don't know if that exists or not. Somebody could tell me if it does exist.
If someone's experiencing that.
Yeah. I'm not sure I'd want it, if I'm honest.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. Like, is there a benefit to having that negative side?
I believe so. But I don't frame it as negative anymore. Like, it's no real good bad for me. It's not a good or a bad. It just is. And so when that voice is going, like, that awareness of, like, that voice created an awareness of, like, oh, this is where I'm at in my journey. So, like, someone could be like, oh, well, that's a negative thing. Well, no, because that then just showcased the awareness that I have about who I am and what other things, that we can start to, okay, I can see that, it's a good thing for me to chill out right now, because that voice normally was the predictor of what not to do, and now it's a predictor of what to do, because I work away from it when I know it's not serving me. So it's almost like an opportunity in disguise. And again, I tie that seriously low mental health into a gift. Like, it's been full reframed into a gift, because I wouldn't be the man that I am today without that chapter. I could have stayed pretty comfortable. 25, 26, I was pretty comfortable. I was wearing a mask, right? And a lot of the times I wasn't aware of anything. When I was 27, I was in hell. 28 in hell. 29 in hell. All of that was a gift, because that was catalyst for change. My deviation as a 25-year-old man, my ability to sabotage everything else around me, to lie, to cheat, to do all of those things, that was all happening in that space pre-27. 27 was the awakening. I was like, all right, dude, I'm not gonna let you live like this anymore. I believe, like, that was mental health to one person. For me, it was like, It was almost like God's work. It's like, I'm not going to let you cruise through like this anymore. But just so you know, to get to where you want to be, we got to go through this first. And that's how it feels, and that's how I look at it. So now when that voice crops up in little small terms, I'm like, hello there, my friend. You know, what's still holding me back? What's still not serving me, not looking after me? Oh, it's those bits. All right, chill out more, man. Stay in bed, watch a movie.
Do you have an idea of God present in your life, or do you very much go to well, I'll let you answer.
I've explored this idea in the last 12 months. I'm not attached to any religion. I'm not attached to any idea or manifestation of God apart from too many things have happened in my world. Too many beautiful blessings. There's too much to be grateful for it to all be a happy accident. I don't know, man. I think God for me is just a representation of whatever energy and life force is beyond us. There's too much in this universe that we can't comprehend, that I just have to believe in something, man. But I'm not sure what God looks like or how that operates. But you know, the idea of praying or manifestation, the same things, and people who are really good at aligning themselves with the universe seem to do really wonderful things. So, you know, whether they're aligning themselves with the universe or aligning themselves with God, or God being the universe being God, people who really connect, they do wonderful things, they live wonderful lives, they become wonderful human beings. There's a lot to be said for that. But it's definitely something I know minimal about. But the idea of faith, I was brought up as an atheist, but the idea of faith I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's like a second input. You've got yourself, and you're holding yourself accountable. But if there's an idea of something greater that you're serving as well, whether that's God or just some purpose,
I think it's a great way to connect to your own heart and come out of the mind.
It gives meaning to your suffering as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you talk about those few years of the darkness and the loneliness. You know, if you have a mindset of like you're part of something greater,
yeah,
it's all happening for you.
Yeah.
And when it's tough, it's what it's meant to be.
Yeah.
You know, it's helping sculpt you into the man you're to become.
Yeah.
It's good to see you shining as that man now.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
I've only known you since the back end of it. I got to know you the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, this dude here came right into my life in the thick of it for unbeknown reasons, and has been a pivotal part in my growth and development, and continues to still play that role. So I have a lot of love for him, an immense amount of love for him. But it wasn't by accident, and that's what I can't explain, because his way into my world was him believing he was serving himself, like coming to get in shape and train. But what he actually did was came into my world to service me and introduce me to himself, introduced me to his father, who was again another man that I was like, what is this? What is this love that these men are carrying? What is this, you know, this companionship, this brotherhood? What is this, you know? And for like automatically rejecting it, you know, terrified of what these people are up to. These Kundalini classes and wild stuff that they were getting involved in. I'm like, shit, I'm fearful of that. You know, and I've got some wonderful stories about how his dad operated with me in the early days. I was like, again, how the fuck is this coming into life? You know? And then suddenly just my anxiety, my fear, and my scarcity was like, oh, these people know too much about me. They're seeing through the mask. You know, they're seeing through and wanting to run as far away from that as possible. You know, that was how I felt. But these people were put there on purpose, you know, and he thought he was coming to get in shape when actually there was a mutual relationship going on there. he was placed there at the right time, and then he was connecting me with his father, and then we connected with the brotherhood, and then we started cold water swimming and all of these wonderful things. How can you explain that? Like, how can you truly explain that?
It's you who got me into cold water swimming, funnily enough, isn't it?
Yeah. But again, I had people who I could ask to do this stuff with. You know, like I had people who I could go, hey Louis, I've booked this, and this was this in COVID, right?
Yeah, I'll come in at some point around the time, yeah.
No rules were broken.
Disclaimer.
But
all rules are broken.
But we went and did cold water, like, and again, just all these manifestations of things occurring, you know, and that led him on his path, and you know, I stayed present with that path. And dude, we all sat here with a Cold Water Tribe T-shirt on, and we're doing a podcast. Like, inexplainable.
There's the ripple effect.
The ripple effect. Build the man.
It's all perfect. All happening as it's meant to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a nice place to start to wind down. Thank you for coming on, Nate.
Thanks for having me.
We'll do it again.
How do people find you?
Instagram, Busy Man Coach. That's it.
Drop you a DM.
Drop me a DM. Say hello. Tell me all the problems you think you have. I'm not going to why.
No, ask you why.
We'll pull back 7 layers of that, and then we'll rebuild the man from there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awen.
Awen.
Awen.